Thanks for checking out this Thanksgiving football preview special. I'm John Luck. BR and Brockton are preparing for the latest installment in this rivalry that dates back decades. Super Bowl matchups that came down to whether Doug Bissett actually got into the end zone, to a playoff matchup going down to the wire. It's safe to say the alumni for these two fan bases should be excited for this one. This year's game is taking place on Thanksgiving morning at 10 a.m. at the Regional, but last year's BR Brockton matchup took place at the most unique setting ever, Fenway Park. For the players, it was a special night to play on the Fenway grass, but this also served as a chance for Brockton fans, along with high school football fans around the Bay State, to celebrate a coaching lineage, as it was the final time a Boxers football team was coached by a Colombo.
Tonight, we would like to recognize a native of Brockton, Massachusetts, who has served as the head coach of the Brockton Boxers football for the past 20 years. With a career record of 132 and 72, he has led his teams to 5 Super Bowl appearances and consecutive championships in 2004 and 2005. But more importantly, he has been a friend, mentor, and leader for generations of Boxer students and athletes. Coach Peter Colombo.
I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down. I want it now and I ain't never gon' back down.
The Bridgewater-Raynham Trojans. The Brockton Boxers.
Touchdown!
People have been great. I've been hearing from a lot of people, opponents, old players, teammates, and I really appreciate it. I don't like being the center. These kids do all the work by coaches. Great players make great coaches. I've said that from day one, and I've been blessed to coach a lot of great kids and be surrounded by, excellent, great coaches.
A 31-20 victory for the Boxers in Peter Colombo's final game as head coach for Brockton. As you probably know, the Boxers hired former Patriot and Super Bowl champion Jermaine Wiggins, who will coach his first Thanksgiving football game coming up on Thursday. It started out rough for the team, going 1-5 in their first 6, but you look at the success of the teams that Brockton lost to, you'll see that this may actually be a case of building for the future and seeing how you measure against tough competition. These are the records going into Friday, November 17th of the first 6 opponents, and the opposition had a combined record of 44-15. As expected, Cam Montero has had a great season with 406 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. Freshman quarterback Jaden Campbell has had an up-and-down season with just under 800 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. To the BR side, and this was a tough summer for the team as a few of their key players departed for other schools. Dawson DeBose and Miles Beckett were among those players moving on to play at the ISL, and much like the Boxers, BR had a tough season, winning one of their first 8 games. They have won 2 in a row in the consolation round against Quincy and Whitman-Hanson, but they got new quarterback Caleb Tripp some all-important reps going into Thanksgiving. The new QB took over for Declan Byrne, who injured himself on the team's senior night, and he is out for Thursday's matchup. I caught up with BR head coach Lou Pacheco about the roster and getting settled as head coach at the regional in this his 3rd season. Joining me right now is the head coach of the BR Trojans football team, Lou Pacheco. Coach, thanks for coming on and talking with us.
Thank you for having me. Very exciting times.
So this is year 3 for you after taking over for Dan Buron. 2021, it feels like you faced a fire hose of football talent. Duxbury, Zavarian, St. John's Prep. Year 2, at least on the outside, it felt like a lot of people were looking ahead to that Fenway Park game against Brockton, which was a great experience. But does it feel like here in year 3, you're starting to maybe feel a little more comfortable with where you are in your role here? The fact that you have a normal week of schedule, normal slate of games?
Yeah, I think the whole COVID thing for honestly the first year and then most of the second year, it was quite an obstacle, to be honest with you. Not having a locker room, not really having access to the weight room in the video room to watch film and stuff. So definitely having a full year of being in there in the summer and being able to work has been awesome.
In that first year, you didn't actually have a football home stadium for the first month, I believe. You had to play your first game in East Bridgewater, right?
Yes. They're working on that new field, which is gorgeous. Like I said, it was a work in progress. It seemed like we did run into a few obstacles, but we were able to overcome them, and they worked out fine.
So you've lost a few key contributors throughout your time there due to graduations, transfers, and things like that. But this year, it feels like injuries have just plagued your team. I was watching pep rally, and the football team came out, and there were a lot of crutches, a lot of arm slings. We talked before the interview that Declan Byrne isn't going to be playing in this game, unfortunately. But how do all these injuries kind of come into the game plan? You don't want to go ahead and blame injuries for why there may be issues or why there may not be issues, but does that affect how you call a game or how wide that playbook can actually open?
So we lost five kids, went off to ISL type schools, and they made that decision. But then you have your team that you're ready to go forward with, and we were pretty well loaded with seniors. And I've never, in all my years of coaching, I've never experienced an injury bug the way we hit it, because it wasn't an ankle or a sprain, or it was literally guys getting a broken leg or an ACL, which needs surgery. So, quite honestly, on offense right now, we have one senior on offense, which is just mind-boggling, because, like I said, we rolled in here with a bunch of seniors. We go out for our captains. We only have one captain that's actually dressed in uniform. So it's been tough, but I'll be honest with you, the experience, we didn't think this was going to be a rebuilding year, but it was. So the experience for these younger kids, like I said, when I look around that offensive huddle, and we only have one senior in that huddle, and they've really come on pretty strong here. They're actually moving the ball. They're working together. So knowing that whole offensive line will be back next year, there is some positives to it. It just stinks because when you're a senior, I really feel for those kids. I mean, that's your senior year. Those are my leaders and kind of my guys, and having them banged up as much as they would definitely put a damper a little bit on the season. True.
And it was Declan, unfortunately, that got hurt during that senior night game against New Bedford, which is tough to see. And on the defensive side of the ball, unfortunately, which I know a lot of high school players do two sides of football, so that's just unfortunate.
Yeah, and it was just such a freak injury. Like a leg whip type thing that nobody does on purpose. It's just a weird freak injury that you would get. So yeah, it's terrible.
So take us into a football coach's mindset here. When you're looking at the Brockton Boxers, what exactly are you looking at? Because a lot of people are thinking, well, there's Cam Montero and, who else are we talking about here? But this is a talented and pretty young football team, including at the quarterback position.
So this is my third year playing Brockton. Obviously, going into both years, it was beat Brockton's one of our goals on Thanksgiving. Usually that would be for some part of the league championship. My first year, I went for 2 for the win at the end of the game with no time left on the clock. We didn't get it. So it was a really competitive, close game. And then the game in Fenway, I thought was amazing. Really tough, physical, close game again. I'll just tell you what we playing the Zavarians of the world this year, playing Milford, and some of those tough teams that we play. Even Zavarian, we always just have to get ready for Brockton's speed. They're just fast across the board. Never fail. They're big up front, but their team speed. So you mentioned it. They got 3 real good running backs / wide receiver type guys. But overall, linebackers, defensive backs, it's a lot of speed to deal with. So I like to think those earlier games kind of help us match up against that a little bit.
A lot of close competitive games between Brockton and BR. Can't wait to see the next one. You mentioned this is your third football game for Thanksgiving as BR head coach. So as we get closer to Thanksgiving, does the practice schedule change, or do you have to calm down the players a little bit when you get closer to the game? Is there a little bit of excitement?
So yeah, for our guys, like I said, this is the game we look forward to. Obviously, all our league games become very exciting. The kids love football, obviously, but yes, our league games become like our biggest games. And then for whatever reason, our kids, and we just mentioned it, last two years, and well before I got here, we just match up well against Brockton. And the fact that a lot of times I think Brockton wins as soon as they show up on the field, everybody's in awe of how talented they are, and they lose before they even get going. Our kids kind of rise to that challenge. They love this game. They look forward to it. And I think it's going to be a heck of a football game. And luckily for us this year, it's at home.
You want to win, obviously, but what do you hope your players take away from this game? Because this is the last game for the seniors. For the underclassmen, we talk about it all the time in the booth, at least, that this is a chance to kind of put yourself in the coach's mind as he prepares next year's depth chart.
Yeah, it's some of that. It's bittersweet. I always try to explain to these guys, it's such a finality, right? You play this game, and then 20 minutes later you turn it in your equipment. So it feels like it's such a finality. So if you get the win, makes that finality a little bit better. But it's just what you're saying. It's these guys, this group of kids will never play together again. This is the one time that this particular group will ever play together. They're going to play that game there, and then after it's over, win or lose, they're going to be turning in their equipment, and it kind of hits them. So I try to explain that to them. Enjoy it. Enjoy the practice. Like you said, it's a little bit longer of a build-up week, but enjoy the process, and then go out there and play with the guys you've been playing with, for your whole lifetime.
An emotional roller coaster. Can't wait to see what we get to see between BR and Brockton coming up on Thanksgiving. Lou Pacheco, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your coverage.
It's not every day, especially in this age of high school football, you find someone helping a football team out for over 30 years. Brian Lynch is the statistician for the Boxers, compiling yards, catches, touchdowns, fumbles, interceptions, and more for over 3 decades. I talked with Brian about his time in the City of Champions and how the game has changed entering a new generation of Boxers football. How did you start out being the statistician for the Boxers? Because we talked before this interview, and this dates back to, the 70s, and it wasn't even a role in stats, right?
Right, yeah. I basically started with, in 1978 would have been junior high for me. I was South Junior High. I had a friend that was a senior, Robbie Stevens, that was going to be graduating, and he said, well, they need someone to help Mr. Lanzetta, the equipment manager, and help the team out in various different positions. So it basically started out with that through my years in Brockton High. I graduated, freshman year was 79, and then I graduated class of 83. A few years shortly after that, Mr. Fitzgibbons was the South Junior High, was a South Junior High at South Junior High, one of the phys ed teacher, and he was also the freshman coach. So he was doing the stats for a while there. And when he had events that he couldn't make it, they had me fill in for him. And obviously he paid me for, his job that he was doing. When he games, he couldn't make it. So I started filling in. So when it came time for him to go down he moved down to the Cape to see more of his grandkids and his children and grandkids playing. He basically recommended to Tom Pileski, who was the AD at the time, that I took over, and I was doing baseball at the time too for Tom Pileski. So he mentioned that, he recommended me to take over for him doing the stats, and pretty much the rest of it's been the same since then. So like I said, it originally started out like 1978. So I've been through quite a few generations here of seeing these players come through the program as well.
And we'll get to that. I have to say, as someone that's announced a few football games like Marciano for Thanksgiving, it's great seeing the stats all laid out. You don't see that a lot in high school football. And it seems like a statistician is becoming more and more important in this generation. You talk about, even in the pros with fantasy football, obviously betting lines and things like that. But in high school football, I feel like a lot of these players like to use the stats when they're coming up with their their high school highlight reel, saying, I had 20 catches for 250 yards or whatever it is. It feels like the role of a statistician is starting to become a little more important as the years go by.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, the biggest thing, obviously we were joking the other day about how everything electronic age, everything with Huddle and everything electronically now. I said, I know I'm going to show my age with the reel-to-reel films down at we actually used to be at the Armory down in downtown Brockton. Basically, did watch game films that way. Now with everything electronically, again through Huddle, the kids can share their highlights as well. And like I said, one of the things I thought was great when we were down at the Armory when I started doing the stats was they put them up on a bulletin board down there, and everyone got to come in and see the stats all laid out from week to week, each week, and things like that. So that was kind of my pride and joy when we were down at the Armory and had the stuff all lined out there. I think a lot of the kids enjoy, basically once everything's updated, I let all the coaches know. I do it on not only Max Preps, but I have my printouts that you've seen before as well too. And I've had some people tell me, like when I've gone up to the press box and I drop off the stats, they said, this is like college level type of stuff, these printouts with, not only the individual game stats for that particular game, but the cumulative totals as well, defensive tackles and assists, everything like that. And then also going into the scoring summary for, top scorers throughout the, those amount of games that happens too. So when I go up to the press box, I always bring extra copies with me. And that was one of the things that, I've had people tell me, it's like, wow, this is quite elaborate to have this amount of stats like this. And the way that, and again, this goes back to like Mr. Fitzgibbons, the way he had the format. I really didn't change much of what he had. Max Preps is a little bit different, entering everything in online. But the paper portion of it, the stats that I print out, I take a lot of pride in those, and I look forward to handing them out. And even past years when we've had Super Bowls and playoff games, even giving them to the news media outlets that are there covering the game, Channel 4, Channel 7, Channel 5, and passing out all that information along to them too, so they have basically a packet on a bunch of the players as well.
Yeah, I remember the first year that we actually had the Cape Cod Cafe Cup. I was in the press box and the stats come in. I'm thinking, where am I right now? This is legit here, because like you said, it's about 5-6 pages or something like that. And everything you need is there, which is great to have, especially if you're commentating a football game that moves really, really quick. You talked about the coaching and how football has changed. You've been there for Armin Colombo, Peter Colombo. You're there now with a new head coach in Jermaine Wiggins. How has football changed in the City of Champions? I'd imagine you've seen a lot in your just over 3 decades there.
Yeah, basically a lot of the stuff, it was all family generations of things with Armand and then some into Peter. Obviously the demographic of the city's changed a little bit. And that's why I think some of the part is obviously a lot of Haitian and Cape Verde players. Obviously, the soccer program has really improved at Brockton High School over the last few years. And so we still get turnout for football. We still get our players that come out. Um, Obviously, one of the things, the generations have obviously changed in terms of the whole atmosphere and everything going on at school, behind the scenes, everything else going on. I will say one of the things that really impressed me with Coach Wiggins was his biggest thing is accountability with these players. So it's, you know, progress reports, your grades have to be kept up and things like that. And, you know, obviously if you're not meeting those grades, then, you know, it's accountability. And I think for the most part, you know, most people, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it, as long as you do this the next time and things like that. And kind of the kids are kind of pampered sometimes through, you know, through the generations. So I think the greatest thing is now is accountability for every one of these players. It doesn't matter if you're a starter, doesn't matter if you're a senior or a freshman. You basically show up late, you do things that you're not supposed to be doing. Basically, you don't play. So I think that's one of the things that's changed with the times. And I think it's a great thing that the staff has started to do in regards to that, is holding these kids accountable and not letting things slide. So I think that's one of the best things that I can see changes. Obviously, we want to get back to the winning tradition and the way that Brockton football was. And I just think some of it is, like I said, Armin was so successful. Peter takes over for his dad, wins back-to-back Super Bowls in 2004, 2005. So we have all the success. So I like a lot of people are expecting like this is the level you're supposed to stay at. But obviously, new coaching staff comes in, you know, and the thing with this team, a lot of people don't really understand, is there's only 6 seniors on this team. The rest of them are a lot of underclassmen. A lot of these underclassmen, this is the first time they've played varsity football. And from game one, Coach Wiggins comes in and he started a freshman quarterback. And you know, from all the years of covering Brockton football, that's a very rare thing at Brockton High School with starting a freshman quarterback.
The record of the teams that Brockton faced in the first, I think it was 6 games or something like that, 44-15. I mean, it almost feels like Brockton's going into a case of seeing where they measure up against those top teams. And this is something that's been done in the past, and Brockton was able to hang in there. But obviously, you mentioned it, with such a young football team, there's obviously going to be some growing pains to deal with.
And we showed some, like I said, but the progress, obviously the first game playing Barnstable, getting blown out. Barnstable was a senior laden team. So getting blown out the first game, but then coming back the next week, you know, and playing that game close. And then it seemed like each week they were improving. We lost a lot of close games, and then we went into lost to Franklin in a close game. We were driving on 4th down. We fumbled at the goal line. We were trying to get in. We still would have needed the 2-point conversion, but you know, we've improved from getting blown out the first week to improving against Franklin. Then we played Lincoln Sudbury, and against Lincoln Sudbury, we forced the game came back down from 21-7, forced overtime, and ended up losing 28-20 in overtime. And Jaden Campbell was going for the pylon, and he got stopped short, you know, of scoring against Lincoln Sudbury. So we had seen improvement each week, and then by beating Lawrence 14-7 and starting to, so each week it seemed like it was improving. It's just a matter of cutting down on the little things, of a few mistakes here and there, the foolish penalties, the offsides, all these things that, you know, basically you'd have to be disciplined to be able to do. But we've noticed that each week it seemed like we were improving each week as the season went on.
So as we get closer to Thanksgiving, you're the perfect person to ask, I think, this question. We all know about Cam Montero, what he brings to the team. We talked a little bit about the quarterback situation there. For the people in Bridgewater and Raynham that don't know a lot about Boxers football, what are some of the things or names that we should maybe be watching out for coming up on Thursday morning?
Well, the running backs you're going to see quite a bit of. A senior Walter Rodriguez, he's one of the captains as well too, number 3. So yeah, on the season, Walter has 99 carries for 431 yards, basically for a 4.4 average rushing. We have Luke Turco as well, as a junior, number 21. He'll get a lot of touches as well. He's had some big runs as well. He's basically has 80 carries for 521 yards for a 6.5 average carry per carry as well too. And then we also have a sophomore, Casey Rhodes. He's got 26 carries for 74 yards, and he'll get some carries as well too during the season, but during the game. Jaden Lopes Ribeiro has been doing great at receiver. He's number 12, and he's a junior as well. He's a junior. He's been very successful. He has a couple of touchdowns on the season. And going back to obviously Jaden Campbell, he basically, in 9 games, he's thrown for almost 800 yards with 7 touchdowns as a freshman. So that right there is pretty impressive for a freshman stuff. Granted, he did have a lot of interceptions. He forced a lot of balls, but to have almost 800 yards through 9 games and 7 touchdown passes is quite impressive for a freshman. I want to go over a couple of defensive players as well too. One of the ones to watch is there's a sophomore defensive back, Jared Mighty, number 23. He had a 101-yard interception return in one of the games this season. I think it was against Durfee. He had returned the ball 101 yards. So obviously I've been doing this a long time. So I said to someone, I said, that might be one of the longest interception returns for a touchdown in Brockton High history. I know we played Taunton recently, and Dominique Williams basically was coaching for Taunton, a wide receiver. And I said, I knew you had a long one, but his was only 84. Someone did mention to me that basically one of the Marcianos might have had like a 100-yard interception return for a touchdown. But in my recent history, for me, that was 101 was like the longest. And one of the leading tacklers so far this season too has been senior Lorenzo Santos. He has like 48 solo tackles on the season. So defense is going to be ready to take and bring their A game. And obviously it's like you said, it's about winning the final game of the season and improving yourself to be ready for next year as well.
Well, there's a reason that your name on the screen says stats, because you just shared some great information with everybody here. And can't wait to see all the stats that we get to see coming up on Thanksgiving. Brian Lynch, thanks for coming on.
No problem. We'll have your stat packet ready for you at Bridgewater.
That'll do it for our football preview special. Make sure you check out BR and Brockton on Thanksgiving morning on BTV and PCA. Both channels will also have replays playing throughout the weekend, so hopefully you'll check it out. Good luck to the Boxers and the Trojans, and we thank you for watching.